Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and we about to get into some subtraction, but we're not going to do it in the typical way that you might do, right? Which is with the regrouping. Let's just look at what we have here. Our minuend, because that's the initial number in a subtraction equation or subtraction problem, right? The number that something is being subtracted from is called a minuend. Minuend, right? It's 3,000. Our subtrahend, that's the number that's being subtracted, is 1,085, right? So if we look at this, we realize that if we want to use the traditional method, we would have to regroup or borrow, because 0 is less than 5, 0 is less than 8, 0 is less, well, 0 and 0 are the same thing. 3 and 1, 3 is bigger than 1, so you don't got to worry about it with these two digits, right? But with these two, definitely. But what if we use another method that some people call the same difference method? The same difference method. Now, I remember being in middle school, right? And it was this girl in my class, and she used to always say, use the phrase, the same difference. It's the same difference. And it used to annoy me because, like, I was unfamiliar with that term. I'd never heard nobody use that before, and it sounded like it didn't really make sense. But that was just my own ignorance. I didn't understand the concept of the terminology, right? It actually does make a lot of sense, because dig this, right? When you subtract a number from another number, all you're trying to do is find the difference between those two numbers, right? Just the difference between those two numbers. So if I make this number smaller, but then I were to make that number smaller by the same amount, and then I subtract those two new numbers, I'm going to get the same answer. So that means we can manipulate this problem and change both of these numbers, the minuend and the subtrahend. But if we change it in the same way, we're going to get the same answer. So dig this. What if I subtracted 1 from 3,000 and then subtracted 1 from 1085? And then I subtracted those two numbers. What I mean is this. What if this becomes 2,999? And then this becomes 1,084. See what happened? I reduced this by 1 and I reduced this by 1. So I'm going to have the same difference. It's going to be the same difference as we would have between these two numbers. But it's just that the mathematics is going to be easier, because now there's nothing to regroup. So dig this. Start at the far right. 9 minus 4 is 5. Make sure you know your subtraction facts. 9 minus 8 is 1. 9 minus 0 is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. We get 1,915. Now, why is 1,915 significant? 1,915 is significant because that's the year 1915. Something very important happened in the year 1915. That was the birth year on January 1st of the late Dr. John Henrik Clarke. The late Dr. John Henrik Clarke, right? Let me show you some of his books. So these are some of the books, right, that he's responsible for. This one, A Century of the Best Black American Short Stories, edited by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. Again, born in 1915. All right? Also, this other book, this is a great one. Malcolm X, The Man and His Times. He edited this, right? He didn't write this entire book, but he edited this. It's like a compilation, like a mixtape, like a best of essays about the late Malcolm X. This is a book written by John Henrik Clarke. Who Betrayed the African World Revolution and Other Speeches, by John Henrik Clarke. This one's about Nat Turner. The Second Crucifixion of Nat Turner, by John Henrik Clarke. This one is kind of autobiographical. It's kind of like a short read. My Life in Search of Africa. This is another one I read years back about Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, Slavery and the Rise of European Capitalism. And last but not least, and these ain't all the books that he's responsible for. These are just a few I grabbed out of my library. Still some more in my library, right? But I ain't want to be sitting up here all day going over this whole bibliography. All right? Notes for an African World Revolution. All right, you see you got pictures of Patrice Lumumba on the cover. You got Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey. Who else on there? Oh, Brother Malcolm X on there as well. So just some books about Dr. John Henrik Clarke. If you're not familiar with John Henrik Clarke, please go do your research. Definitely. He's somebody you definitely should know. All right? See y'all in the next video.